Greetings. This introductory lesson is the result of a lengthy and hard development process. I keep finding new ways to refine this process, and I am actually very excited about this automatic report emailing series. This lesson is the first in a series focused on the problem of how to get Sunplus to automatically email reports. Before we go any further, let's be clear on our mission. By automatically email reports, I'm not talking about emailing financial statements to your board members. What I have in mind is being able to automatically email such things as departmental reports to department heads, a budget report to department heads, each department head getting just their department, resource reports and allocated fund statements to the fund manager, student accounts to the students, and ER accounts to all of our 1,000 employees. So we're talking about a massive mailing project, not just how to automatically mail financial statements to 10 board members. You can handle that fine without any videos. As we go through this explanation, be thinking about how much time you could save if you had the ability to mail each person's report automatically. Now this is a big vision. At this point, I'm envisioning a set of at least 3 lessons. This introduction will cover how to store email addresses in Sun systems and how to pull them into a report. That's going to be fundamental for it, no matter what we do with what report. The second lesson will cover how to automatically email your reports out as PDF files. And the third lesson will cover how to automatically email your reports as Excel files. Of course, as we go along, if I find further related features, I'll add them to the series, so we will not arbitrarily limit ourselves to only 3 lessons. Well, the first thing we have to do is to store email addresses in Sun systems. Before we can create a report that indicates or includes an email address, we need to find a place in Sun systems where we can store the actual email address. Sun systems is a highly flexible, versatile system. If you could come up with a way to get this information in a report and you're happy with it, go ahead and do it your own way. What I'm showing you here is simply one very handy, tidy way to pull in that information. Let's start thinking about the kinds of reports we'd like to automatically email. Some reports, such as departmental reports, travel expense reports, or allocated fund reports, function reports, are all based on analysis code. They all break out by analysis code. Other reports are based on natural accounts, such as employee ER account statements. The goal is to find a single place where we can store an email address and have it available to both analysis codes and natural accounts. At first I thought we would use address setup. In the latest version of Sun Systems, there's a field where email addresses can be stored. The problem with using address setup for our purposes, however, is that you cannot attach an address record to an analysis code, which limits the usefulness of storing the email address in the address setup. After much experimentation, I found a great place to store email addresses and have them available to both analysis codes and natural accounts. That is what I will show you in this lesson. You may think at first that this is a little bit awkward to learn, but you'll find once you learn it that it's very powerful. The whole concept is built around the idea of standard text. If you are familiar with standard text, this will be a little bit of a review. If you're new to standard text, it is basically 1 to 5 paragraphs of any kind of textual information that you wish to attach to either analysis codes or natural accounts. In addition, the same standard text, say an address, can be attached to an analysis code, say a WHO, and a natural account, say an ER account. So this is very powerful and it works nicely for our email project. The standard text screen looks like this. I'm going to use it at describing my vision about the way I would set it up, and then you would design it for yourself. There's no worldwide Sun Plus standard for this functionality, and we're going to train you how to use it, but you can decide whether or not you want to use it this way or not. Notice especially the type of information I've stored in the short heading, the lookup code, and the description fields. These are reportable fields that can be included in report, and they can also be used for filters and so forth within Q&A. They can store any additional information you need. My example has set up an information relative to an allocated fund. I've used the allocated fund analysis code as my standard text code. This provides at least a logical tie-in to the analysis dimensions. Moving to my standard heading and lookup code fields, I have simply repeated the analysis code in my example, but in fact I could store other kinds of information in these fields. For example, the date the fund was started could be stored in the short heading, and the date the committee approved it, or even the date when the annual report needs to be prepared, could be stored in the lookup code. In my hypothetical example here, John Smith is the fund manager, and I have stored his name in the description field. I can easily then come up with a report for all the funds for which Mr. Smith is the manager. The beauty of these fields to store this information is each one can be searched by, filtered by, reported on, and so forth from Q&A. And then in paragraph 1, looking at the lower portion of the standard text screen, we have 5 tabs, each one containing a large field in which you can enter any information you wish. Essentially, we have 5 paragraphs of information about the analysis code. So I have set the standard text up as AFO Evangel 1 to attach it to my allocated fund dedicated to evangelize the river people of the Mekong Delta. I would use paragraph 1 to store details about this allocated fund. The purpose of this fund is to evangelize the river people of the Mekong Delta. Here I can spell out the requirements. Any other kinds of requirements. An annual report must be made each year by February 27th to the General Conference Global Mission Committee. I could use paragraph 1 to track interactions relevant to the fund. I talked to John Smith on this date, so-and-so, about such and such. To recap, I used paragraph 1 to describe the purpose of the analysis code and to record my notes having to do with this allocated fund. I have visited organizations that have several hundred allocated funds, and it's very difficult to keep the details of all these funds straight. Using paragraph 1, I can easily manage as many of these allocated funds as necessary. Now going to paragraph 2, I like to use paragraph 2 to store the physical address of the analysis code. This is the mailing address for John Smith, the manager of the Evangelism Allocated Fund. This address may become necessary at some point for this allocated fund, but it would be mostly nice to have it for the email address, for the functions, and for the who. So that is how I envision using this allocated fund of paragraph 2. And in paragraph 3, I am putting the email address of the analysis code. So it would be if the analysis code was a who, it would be the email address of the who. Or if it were a department and under functions, it would be the email address of the department head. Or if it were an allocated function, it would be the email address of the person responsible for taking care of that allocated fund over in resources. So that is how I envision using this for allocated funds. The concept, however, could be easily adapted for other purposes. functions for the departments. We could set up a standard text for each department. We could use the function code as the standard text code. Now tracking the department of the purpose of, now tracking the purpose of the department might be less important, but there are other types of notes relative to the department that we might wish to maintain. The physical address may not be necessary. You could leave that paragraph blank, but the email address would be very relevant. We need to send out departmental budget reports. Likewise, we could do this for who's, the employees. We could set up a standard text for each employee. The standard text code would be the employee who's analysis code. Now let's think of the notes we might want to maintain about the employee. Since we can attach this text to the ER natural account, we could record notes about conversations about the employee paying their outstanding accounts, or conversations you've had with the employee about their travel budget. We can maintain details about their employee's loan in paragraph 1. In paragraph 2, we'd store their mailing address so we could physically mail them the ER account statement. We could also help organizations whose employees do not work at the same location. In paragraph 3, we would have the email address for emailing their account statement to them, or emailing their travel budget report. Storing the email address for employees is very important for the project we're working on today. Being able to automatically email the travel expense report would be very convenient. These are just a few ways that I see us to use this functionality. In my opinion, we would try to set up the standard text for any natural accounts, also for who. So I would see us setting it up for natural accounts, for who, for function and resource analysis, and we would follow the same basic principles for all 4 or 5 locations, even though they might be less relevant in a particular context. So who may not need paragraph 1, but we definitely need the email address on who for paragraph 3. A function may not need a mailing address, but we definitely want to have their email address in paragraph 3, and so forth. In that way, all your email addresses would be conveniently stored in one place, so you can easily know where to go to fix them. Now, to set up standard text, the very first thing you need to do is to figure out how your organization wants to use and design the overall structure of their standard text, something similar to what we just went over. There's no reason for you to structure your setup exactly like I've structured mine. If you would prefer something slightly different, that will be okay. What is important is uniformity and harmony. When your design reports to pull information from one of these reportable fields, you want to be sure that the information is stored in that field is consistent no matter what type of analysis code or account you're hitting. If you store the name of the fund manager in the description field, you do not want to occasionally store the date when the fund was created in that field. Think what a mess that would be. So keep uniformity and harmony in mind as you design your structure, and be careful that the same information is always stored in any particular field. It is possible that you do not have the 2 standard text functions displayed on your navigation manager. If so, you will need to go over to your user manager and attach these functions. You may need to ask your IT support or controller to help you with that. Also, you need to set up standard text classes. That's the very first thing that you have to do. This is very easy to do, but requires a little thought. You can set up categories of standard text and group all similar standard text records together. Personally, I think standard text classes may be a bit of an overkill, but you can have categories of standard text if you wish to have them. After some experimentation, I've decided that for storing email addresses, I want to use the same standard text records for both analysis codes and natural accounts. But you may want to break up standard text into different groups if you find it keeps you more organized. To To set up standard text classes, you will use the standard text classes menu function. Start by assigning a standard text class code. We can see from the classes I have set up in my demonstration business unit by clicking on the Assist button. Here we see the results of my original vision to set up separate classes for accounts and analysis. But I've decided to simply use the analysis emails class for both account and analysis. And if I had it to do over again, I would name it a generic name like emails. It is very simple to set up a standard text class. You only have to do this once for every class, and say once perhaps even in your entire lifetime as a SunPlus user. My advice is to set up a very short standard text class code like BKK to help you with data entry. You'll see how this will come into play later. Then you name it the class using the description field. Remember, you're only setting up a category. We can enter the purpose of the category in the description field, and you enter a short heading and lookup. So let's look at how I set up the analysis emails class. I've actually regretted calling this class analysis emails because I want to use one class for all of my standard text records. The beauty of grouping them in the same place is that they can easily be shared for cross purposes. One standard text goes to the WHO, and the same standard text goes to the ER account. The main takeaway from this section is that you first must create a standard text class. You can create a class, whatever class you can create whatever class you desire. Once a class has been created, you need to set up individual standard text records. Okay, you only once in a while set up a standard text class. In preparing for this documentation, I went to Q&A Excel and pulled the employee ER natural account codes and the name set up from line 1 of the address code out of the system. Then I laboriously typed in the email address for each of the employees on my list. The resulting list is displayed now. If your address records have employees listed in surname, given name order, I encourage you to use Microsoft Excel functions to rearrange the name to given name, surname order. This is because I have this vision of one day setting up an automatic email of functionality that will pull in the employee's name and say, Dear Julius Smith, rather than saying Dear Smith, Julius. So I want to set up the employee name in my standard text in what I would consider given name, family name order, or regular order. I have already set up standard text for the first 48 of the listed ones here. It was a struggle. It took me maybe an hour to cut and paste these in, so it's not too hard. So I've done the first 48, and now we need to do number 49, Renolev Walensky, and I will use that for demonstration purposes, setting up Renolev Walensky's account. To set up standard text, we need to go to the analysis code or account code to which we want to attach a standard text. So in this case, we're attaching the standard text to the actual Renolev's ER account in the chart of accounts. And so we'll go to the chart of accounts, setup, and then go to Renolev's account. And we'll copy her analysis code. Then under Actions, we'll open Standard Text. The very first thing when I've got Standard Text open, first thing we'll do is pull in the analysis class, the Standard Text class that we set up a few minutes ago. Whatever class you're using, you would pull it in here. Second, we need to create a unique standard text code for the record that we are creating, and I have been following the convention of using the employee's account code as the standard text code. This creates at least a psychological link between the standard text and the natural account, and the standard text and the analysis code for that employee. It makes it much easier to select the relevant text for an employee. Since I have an employee's account codes in my printout, I just copy and paste to make sure I get the right code. At this point, we click the familiar OK button to create the record. And then you would follow your design, put in whatever values you've decided to store in the short heading and the lookup code fields. And I'm just going to repeat the account code there, just as a quick way of populating these fields. If I thought this all the way through, I might want to add something a little more meaningful to those fields, but this is just to give you an idea of how to use standard text. Notice that I'm putting the employee's name in given name, surname order, and the description value. That way, anytime I want to display an employee name in that order, I have it right there waiting for me. If I want surname, comma, given name in a report, I'll use the chart of accounts description. If I want given name, surname in a report, I'll use the standard text description. For this employee record, I am mainly interested in storing the email address, so I will go to paragraph 3 tab and copy the email address off of my Excel printout and paste it into the field. When I have my email address the way I want it, it's very important for you to click Attach Text. I cannot emphasize how important that is, because this then electronically attaches the standard text to that account record. Okay? When I click Attach Text, this standard text is attached to this account. You can attach one standard text to multiple accounts, or to one or more accounts, as well as to one or more analysis codes. We get this message when the text has been attached. We click OK. We can see what we've done here, so we go to the chart of accounts again, back to Renolov's Walensky's account, and hit Open Standard Text. Have the open actions going to standard text, and we'll be able to see that what we have created for Renolov. The process of attaching a standard text record to an analysis code is exactly the same as attaching it to a natural account. I am just showing you how to use it with the chart of accounts function, but it would be exactly the same doing it to an analysis code. At this point, looking at if we enter the standard text through the account or through the analysis code, we would have a tendency to want to click the amend button, because that's what we want to do when we want to add or subtract information to account. This time, however, we should not click the amend button because it doesn't work very well in this fashion. Okay? So if we want to make a change in the standard text, we have to go and do that a different place than through the standard text when we encounter it through the actions button in the analysis code or in the account code. So this part of the video is to show you how to change a standard text once you've got it set up and you want to amend it for some reason. If for some reason you need to make changes in the information in standard text, you would think you would go to the actions menu of the chart of accounts and make your changes. Unfortunately, this process does not work well. You need to go to the standard text variants, open the standard text record that you need to change, and click amend. Changes here work very nicely. Now let's say you want to change the email address or add a note about this employee. We'll add a note saying, talk to Renolev about her account balance. She'll settle next month. Now we've typed that note in, and now we want to add another line. This is a bit tricky, and so you'll want to pay attention. If you hit the Enter button, you will evoke the OK button on this form, and the form will start trying to close. All we want to do is to add one more line. So to add another line, we'll click Alternate and Enter. This will move your cursor down one line. I'll type, she's asked for us to deduct her outstanding balance in the next pay period. Let's make another change. We'll enter the physical mailing address in paragraph 2. This is a good place to again demonstrate alternate enter. On paragraph 2, we type in Renolev Walensky. Then we click alternate enter. On the next line, we want to do 1205 South Battery. Then click alternate enter. The next line, Charleston, South Carolina. Then click alternate enter. And then finally, the United States. What if we want to record more than one email address for an employee or one more email address for a department? That will be very easy to do. You can store as many email addresses as you want as long as you enter a semicolon between each email address, and the automatic functionality that we are going to learn will send the email to both of those email addresses. Now that we have recorded our standard text records, we can pull them out of the system into a variety of reports. We'll go to Q&A Executive for this part of the demonstration. I've prepared a couple of example reports that we can look at. Let's just to get started with showing you how to do a report, let's just do a simple listing of all of our accounts and their corresponding email address. So you can see that from our filters that we have built in the business unit, AOA, table, chart of accounts, account type, we'll go to all, account code, the ER to ERZZ, and then our output will be account code and description, and then we'll go down, pull down a little bit, and go and get standard text, open standard text, and select paragraph 3. Okay, so now that we've seen how easy it is to do include standard text into a report, let's get busy with our class example. Our class example is a statement of account that we have created in previous training videos, and this particular statement of account we're going to run for all of the ER accounts and have it automatically email their account to each of the particular employees that more or less belong to the account. So you can see the way this has been designed here, pulling out the ER to ERZZZ as the account range. And in cell A4, let's take a peek at cell A4, we have a breakout code, and including how the breakout code was set up. We clicked into the little helper button here and selected breakout code. So when we do the breakout for the account, it will put the employee's name right there in cell A4. Okay, and so we will run the report, we'll extract the report and get it out to this point. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it, if you want to know more about making this report, you need to go back and look at the video about making it. But then we will expand the transactions to which we want to expand. Okay, and so we'll click the expand icon on the toolbar, and we'll specify transaction date, journal number, line number, so forth has been expanded, and we then get the details. And this right now report, as we're looking at it right now, are all the ER entries for all of the ER accounts. Okay, all in one report, because we're looking at ER to ERZZZ. And now we're going to do our breakout, and we'll specify that we want to break out by the account name, not the account number. We'll break out by account name, so we'll open up the chart of accounts button and do the breakout now by account name. Okay, and then secondly, we'll break out by standard text paragraph 3. That's where our email addresses are. Okay, so we drop down a little bit in the chart of accounts to standard text, open up the standard text, and then go to paragraph 3, and we'll get paragraph 3 over to the right. We'll also want to make sure that when we're doing our breakout, we go to suppress zeros and under the options menu. Okay, and we'll let this run and restart after we have gotten the report out. When the breakout is finished, we have a very nice report. Look closely at the header, and you'll notice that the employee's name and email address have been added to each of the broken out sheets. And as you're aware, this statement of account was based on the account, this ER account. This is an example of account-based statement, and so we've separated each one by account. We could have done this just as easily by breaking out on analysis code, for example, in a travel report. So this finishes up this video on making the report. We've gotten it to the point we're ready to either send this output and create a PDF and automatically email the PDF, or go to output and automatically email it as output, and then output it to Excel, and then automatically email the Excel sheets. And so the next two videos will cover those two topics: automatically taking the same report and sending it to Excel, or taking the same report and sending it out as PDFs. The two different ways of doing it. And in both cases, we need to have the email address showing available to the process. Now, before I let you go, we'll have a gratuitous advertisement of the Screencast Training Library. If you go here, you can see the entire library of screencast videos, and if you want to find video 26 and look at video 26 under the Q&A training, that's where you can see how to make the statement of account that we were using so far in this video. Okay, so you're able to look around there and find other interesting videos to watch as well. So thank you for watching today's video, and make sure that you pick up the next two videos. The next one is all about how to take the report we just created and have it automatically email itself as a PDF, and the one after that is how to take Excel sheet and have it automatically email itself as an Excel sheet. So there you go, and thank you very much for listening.